we're on the tipping point in India and other parts of the world of what could be such a negative implication that it leads to societal unrest. It's like, where's my job? And one of the biggest problems is a young population, an intelligent young population that has taken their future, grabbed away from them. What do they do? And the conversation I had with Sanjay, which I agree with, is the job of the future is being an entrepreneur. And so his mission in India is upskilling all of these young students to become entrepreneurs, to create new job opportunities for themselves. Dave, how do you think this plays out?
I think that, we're way underestimating the creativity of people. And there's this window of time, the next 4 years, where the empowerment of people to create is so outweighs the risk. And I do agree, we're choosing driver because it's a really tough case. It's the number one job and title in the world is driver. It's a huge number of people. But if you look at graphic designers as a case study too, I think they're empowered much more than they're replaced. And there are all these case studies popping up of VO3 artists that are so much more productive. And so I think that when I look at entrepreneurs, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs over the years. What they need is time and the ability to act. So tools, time and tools. And there's very likely a world coming up over the next 4 years where they're given time, whether it's UBI or otherwise, and they can act. Because very often, some of the best, most creative people, they can't act on their ideas largely because they're trapped in mortgage, they're trapped in student debt. They just need money now. And so then they become an Uber driver for a while, they become a whatever for a while, they go work at Google for a while. But their freedom of action is very, very limited. And I think that AI has the opportunity to open up freedom of action. Freedom of action unleashes creativity. So exactly as Salim was saying, there's so much latent entrepreneurial talent. And this next window of 4 years is going to be dominated by the ability to build scaffolding. And scaffolding is a word you're going to hear a ton now going forward because the AI doesn't naturally do something interesting or useful for you. It'll write all the code, it'll build everything, it'll audit, it'll write all the documents. It does all the busy work very, very well in the next 4 years, but it doesn't decide this is what my user base, my community, this is what people will want. And that's still coming from entrepreneurs. And so this slide is exactly right. This is the dominant theme over the next 4 years.
Go ahead and read this out, if you would, Dave.
Job of the future is entrepreneur. Near term, next 2 to 5 years, many jobs will be impacted. This decade, 2030, medium term. So the medium term, 2030 to 2045, is the part where no one can quite visualize. I have a great sense of the next 4 years, and then a much more difficult sense of what happens from 2030 and beyond. It'll clearly be an age of incredible abundance. So the opportunity to make everybody happy is right in front of us. Just a question of how you do it.
Yeah.
But then the singularity sprint.
Let me hit on that, right?
Yeah.
So the idea here of the singularity sprint, you have a window of time to build something awesome, and that window is limited. So I'll read, it says, the anxious all-out rush to launch bold projects or startups right now, driven by the fear that rapidly advancing AI will soon erode human leverage and make long horizon careers bets obsolete. And quote, after graduation, a lot of my friends skip safe jobs for their own ventures. Classic singularity sprint vibes. So it's like, if you want to make it big, you got to dive in right now, both feet. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, this is what started with Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, both being 21 when the PC comes out. They have no career path, right? They're within a year of age of each other. They're old enough to start a company, but they're young enough that they're not in law school. They're not in some, entrenched 401k plan. They're just free to act. And so, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, then you forward to the internet, Mark Zuckerberg drops out, starts Facebook. But you see this over and over again in recent history where flexibility way outperforms career pathing. So going forward, of course, that's going to accelerate with the singularity. So now, you'd be crazy to get too deep into some trench when the amount of change is accelerating like crazy. So this is clearly the world we're moving into. Opportunity is everywhere. And the expansion of opportunity is just fractal and rampant. And so many things you can do to add value, but they're not things that you would have anticipated a year prior. So you need to be really nimble and flexible and, stay frosty, watch this podcast, read the Alex Wisner Gross feed, like just stay on top of it because new things are appearing all the time.